They don't fear your money. They don't fear your complaints. They don't even fear your votes. What they fear is a nation of people who wake up. Because the moment you open your eyes, the lies lose their power. The moment you stand up, their control starts to crack. And the moment you speak the truth without apology, the walls of their system begin to fall. For too long, you've been told what to think, who to trust, and what's best for you. You've been sold the idea that your voice is too small, your influence too weak, your life too ordinary to make a difference. That's the script they want you to follow. But that script was never written for your success. It was written for your submission. They count on your distraction. They count on you being too busy scrolling, too busy arguing with each other, too busy chasing things that don't matter. Because if you ever pause long enough to see the truth, you'll realize the power has been in your hands all along. Look around. We live in a world where the loudest voices aren't always the most honest, where leadership is often traded for popularity, where courage is replaced by comfort, and where doing what's right is often less important than doing what's easy. But here's the thing. Real change never comes from the top down. It comes from the bottom up. It comes from ordinary people refusing to be silenced. It comes from the workers, the dreamers, the students, the mothers, the fathers, the everyday individuals who decide they will no longer wait for permission to do what's right. You've been told to follow the rules. I'm telling you, question them. You've been told to wait for leaders to fix things. I'm telling you, be the leader you're waiting for. You've been told your voice doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it's the only thing that ever has. The truth is, no one is coming to save you. Not a politician, not a celebrity, not some miracle from the sky. You are the one you've been waiting for. Your courage, your discipline, your willingness to stand when it's unpopular, that's what changes the world. History is full of moments when small groups of people stood up and said, enough. They didn't always have money, they didn't always have power, but they had conviction, and conviction is contagious. Today, I'm not asking you to be loud. I'm asking you to be clear. I'm not asking you to fight with anger. I'm asking you to fight with anger.
I'm asking you to fight with purpose. And I'm not asking you to wait for the right moment. This is the moment.
If you want a better country, don't just demand it, build it. If you want truth, live it. If you want freedom, protect it, stand, speak, act. Because the day you decide to rise is the day they start to fall. When a person's mind truly wakes up, it's like a light being switched on in a room that's been dark for years. Suddenly, you see the dust on the floor, the cracks in the walls, and the lies that were painted over to make things look perfect. That's why people in power fear an awakened mind. Because it can't be tricked, manipulated, or bought. Once your eyes are open, you begin to question everything. You stop believing the headlines just because they're printed in bold. You stop accepting rules just because that's how it's always been done. You start connecting dots that were never meant to be connected in your mind. And that's dangerous. To those who benefit from your ignorance. They rely on you to stay asleep, to keep your head down, to follow the script they've written for you since the day you were born. When your mind wakes up, you begin to notice patterns. You see how the same promises are made every election cycle, yet nothing changes. You notice how fear is used like a tool, turning people against each other so they never unite against the real problems. You realize that the very people who claim to serve you are often serving themselves first. You understand that news isn't always truth. It's often a carefully crafted story to make you think a certain way. You start asking, who benefits from me believing this? And that one question alone can unravel 1,000 lies. An awakened mind doesn't just question, it acts differently. You stop reacting emotionally to every crisis they throw at you. You stop getting swept up in the drama they feed you. You start focusing on what really matters. Your family, your future, your freedom. You make decisions based on facts, not fear. And because you're no longer predictable, you become a problem for anyone who wants to control you. They can't sell you their false hope anymore. They can't convince you to fight your neighbor while they rob you in daylight. You've become a threat, not because you're violent, but because you're awake. History has shown that every great movement, every revolution, every shift in society began with people waking up. One person sees the truth, then another, and another. It spreads like fire, and suddenly the lies don't work anymore. The truth becomes louder than the propaganda. But the first spark always comes from someone deciding, I'm not going to live in this fog anymore. I'm going to see things for what they are. That's why they invest so much energy into keeping you distracted, divided, and tired. Because a tired mind doesn't question. A distracted mind doesn't resist. A divided people don't unite. The moment you choose to wake up, you choose to be free in a way that terrifies those who rely on your silence and compliance. And that's why your mind is the most dangerous weapon you will ever have if you decide to use it. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's moving forward even when fear is screaming at you to turn back. Every time you choose to speak truth in a world that thrives on deception, you put yourself at risk. People might label you, isolate. Courage means refusing to be silent when you see wrong happening, even if you're the only one speaking up. It means standing in the uncomfortable places where people may attack you, where the easy choice would be to walk away. But if everyone walks away, the problem never gets fixed. Courage is what forces the liars to face the truth. It makes them answer questions they never wanted to hear. It drags their hidden motives into the light for the world to see. And that's exactly why it scares them. You see, most people wait for the right time to be brave. They convince themselves they'll speak up when it's safer, when there's more support, when the risk isn't so high. But the truth is that perfect moment never comes. The right time for courage is always now. Because every second you wait, lies get deeper, injustice grows stronger, and corruption tightens its grip. Those in power understand this. They know that hesitation is their ally. The longer you delay, the harder it becomes to act. That's why courage must be immediate, bold, and unshakable. Courage also demands that you're willing to lose something in the short term to gain something far greater in the long term. You might lose friends who can't handle your honesty. You might lose opportunities that require your silence. You might even lose your comfort because courage will pull you out of safe spaces and drop you into the battlefield of truth. But what you gain is worth infinitely more,
freedom, and the ability to look yourself in the mirror without shame.
Fear feeds on silence. Courage starves it. When you act with courage, you don't just challenge one lie. You challenge the entire system that depends on those lies to survive. And here's the thing. Courage spreads. Once people see someone willing to take a stand, it gives them permission to find their own voice. They stop whispering in the shadows and start speaking out in the open. This is why courage is more
dangerous to the powerful than any weapon or protest. It breaks the illusion that they're untouchable, and it reminds the world that no one can rule without the consent of the people who have the courage to say enough. Truth is not just a word, it's a force that changes everything it touches, but truth, in its purest form, is dangerous to those who build their power on lies. When you speak the truth, you're not just sharing information, you're shattering illusions, breaking the chains that keep people blind, and exposing the rot beneath polished speeches and empty promises. This is why so many fear it. They know the truth is like a mirror, and once people see reality for what it is, they can never unsee it. It forces them to confront the fact that they've been deceived, manipulated, and controlled. But truth is not always comfortable. It rarely comes wrapped in soft words or gentle tones. Truth can cut deep. It can challenge your beliefs, your habits, your loyalties. It can make you question the very foundation you've been standing on. And that's why so many run from it. They'd rather live in a comfortable lie than face the pain of reality. Yet without truth, there is no real freedom. A life built on lies might feel safe for a while, but it's a prison disguised as peace. And the moment the walls crack, everything collapses. Speaking truth means you must be ready for resistance. People will try to twist your words, discredit your character, and drown out your voice. They will call you extreme, unbalanced, even dangerous, because to them you are, not because you're harming anyone, but because your honesty threatens the system that benefits from keeping people in the dark. Every lie has a chain of people who profit from it, and when you pull one thread of truth, you risk unraveling the entire web they've spun. The truth also requires responsibility. It's not enough to know it, you must act on it. Too many people discover truth and then hide it away, afraid of what might happen if they speak up. But truth locked away is just as powerless as a lie. For it to create change, it must be spoken, lived, and defended. Even when it costs you something, even when it means standing alone. Because once truth is voiced, it becomes a seed planted in the minds of others. Maybe not everyone will believe it immediately, but seeds grow. And over time, they break through even the hardest ground. There's also another thing about truth. It has endurance. Lies may shine bright for a moment, but they burn out quickly. Truth, no matter how buried, always finds a way to resurface. You can suppress it, censor it, and punish those who carry it, but you can't destroy it. And when it finally emerges, it exposes not only the lie, but the lengths to which people went to hide it. That exposure is powerful. It turns public opinion, it ignites movements, and it holds the corrupt accountable in ways they never expected. The ones who fear truth the most are often those who've built their success, their image, and their influence on deception. To them, truth is not just inconvenient, it's lethal. Because once people know it, they can no longer be controlled in the same way. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite it. In a world where speaking your mind can cost you friends, opportunities, and even your safety, courage becomes the rarest and most valuable quality a person can. Most people stay silent, not because they don't know the truth, but because they are afraid of the consequences. They fear being judged, rejected, or targeted. They fear losing the comfort of their current life. But history has never been changed by those who chose comfort over conviction. Every movement, every breakthrough, every moment of progress was sparked by someone who decided that standing up was worth more than staying safe. Courage begins when you refuse to bow to intimidation. The powerful have always relied on fear to maintain control. They know that if they can scare you into silence, they don't have to defeat you in open battle. They simply wait for you to talk yourself out of taking action. Fear whispers all kinds of lies in your ear. You can't win. It's not worth it. Someone else will do it. But courage answers back with a louder voice. Even if I lose, at least I stood for something that mattered. That kind of mindset changes everything, because once fear loses its grip on you, the people who try to control you lose their grip as well. True courage also means accepting the cost. It's easy to be bold when there's nothing at stake, but real courage is tested when speaking up might put you in the line of fire. You may be mocked, you may be threatened, you may even be betrayed by people you thought would stand beside you. But courage understands that the price of silence is always higher than the price of speaking the truth. Staying quiet may protect you for a moment, but it leaves the problem untouched. And eventually that problem will grow big enough to consume you too. Courage doesn't mean you feel ready. It means you move forward even when you don't. Many people think they have to wait for the perfect moment, for the fear to disappear, for the risk to shrink. But courage understands that there is no perfect moment, only the decision you make in the moment you're given. The most powerful actions in history were taken by people who didn't have all the answers, who didn't know how it would turn out, but who stepped forward anyway because they knew they couldn't remain still. When courage spreads, it becomes contagious. One person's act of bravery gives permission for others to be brave too. Suddenly, those who thought they were alone realize there are others who feel the same way, who are just as ready to act. Courage inspires courage. It pushes back against fear like a rising tide, eroding the walls of silence and hesitation that the powerful depend on to keep the truth hidden. Integrity is the backbone of trust, and without it, nothing you say or do holds any real weight. It's the invisible force that gives power to your words and credibility to your actions. Integrity means doing the right thing when no one is watching, keeping your promises even when it's inconvenient, and refusing to compromise your principles for short-term gain. In a world where it's common to twist the truth, cut corners, and bend rules for personal advantage, integrity becomes a form of quiet rebellion. It's the refusal to be bought, the refusal to be swayed by bribes, popularity, or fear of criticism. People with integrity are rare, and that's exactly why they stand out. Integrity is not something you can fake. You can put on a performance for a while, but sooner or later, the truth reveals itself, and once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to get back. That's why those who truly live with integrity guard it fiercely. They understand that their reputation is worth more than money, more than power, and more than public approval. When you speak the truth consistently, when your actions match your words, people notice. Even those who disagree with you will have to admit you are honest. That's the kind of influence that lasts long after speeches fade and headlines change. Living with integrity often means making difficult choices. You may have to walk away from opportunities that look promising but require you to betray your values. You may have to expose wrongdoing even if it costs you relationships or puts you in the line of fire. Integrity demands that you choose principle over popularity, truth over comfort, and long-term respect over temporary rewards. This is not easy. Many will try to convince you that everyone does it, or that it's just how the game is played. But integrity knows no shortcuts. It understands that your character is built decision by decision, and every time you compromise, you chip away at the foundation of who you are. The power of integrity is that it gives you peace of mind. You don't have to remember what lies you told, who you pretended to be, or what mask you wore yesterday. You live with consistency. People know what to expect from you, and they know they can rely on your word. That kind of reliability makes you dangerous to those who thrive on manipulation, because they can't control you with fear, flattery, or rewards. You are anchored to something deeper than approval. You are anchored to the truth. Integrity also has a ripple effect. When one person refuses to compromise, it challenges others to reconsider their own choices. It inspires people to raise their standards, to expect more from themselves and from those in positions of power. It builds communities where trust is possible and where accountability is not just a word but a lived reality. And in times of crisis, when lies are exposed and masks are ripped away, it's the people with integrity who remain standing. Not because they never faced temptation, but because they chose again and again to remain true. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward in spite of it. Every great change, every meaningful stand, and every breakthrough in history was made by someone who felt the weight of fear pressing against their chest, but refused to let main. Well, lot and try this, too. It dictate their actions. Courage is that inner voice that whispers, do it anyway. It's what pushes you to speak up when staying silent would be easier, to take a stand when sitting down would feel safer, and to keep going when every part of you wants to give up. Fear will always be there, lurking in the background, telling you that you're not ready, that you're going to fail, that people will laugh, criticize, or reject you. But courage responds with a simple truth. The risk of doing nothing is far greater than the risk of trying. Real courage isn't loud or flashy. It's often quiet, almost invisible to the outside world. It's the decision to have the hard conversation you've been avoiding. It's the moment you choose to stand beside someone who's being mistreated, even if it means becoming a target yourself. It's the resolve to hold on to your convictions when you're surrounded by voices demanding you compromise them. Courage shows up in small moments, as much as in grand ones, because it's not about size, it's about direction. Every time you choose to move toward what's right instead of what's easy, you are practicing courage, building a muscle that grows stronger the more you use it. Courage will make you uncomfortable. It will place you in situations where you feel exposed, vulnerable, and uncertain. But those are the moments where you discover who you truly are. You find out that your capacity is far greater than you believed, that you can endure more than you imagined, and that fear loses its grip once you step into it. Many people spend their lives waiting for fear to disappear before they take action. But that day never comes. Fear doesn't vanish. You just learn to carry it with you, refusing to let it set the limits on your life. Courage also forces you to confront the truth about what matters most to you. It asks, what are you willing to risk for the sake of your principles? What are you willing to lose? In order to stand for what's right, these are not easy questions, because courage may cost you friendships, opportunities, or even your comfort. But it also gives you something far more valuable, self-respect. When you act with courage, you can look in the mirror and know that you didn't let fear dictate the course of your life. That sense of honor cannot be bought, faked, or taken away by anyone. And the beauty of courage is that it's contagious. One act of bravery can inspire others to rise. When people see you standing firm, it reminds them that they too have the power to resist, to speak, and to act. Courage spreads like fire, igniting hearts and minds, and suddenly what once felt impossible becomes a movement.